everybody. I have something important I want to talk to you about today, and it encompasses several different things that I think you should be aware of. First off, I want to get out there that for me, the takeaway I want to offer to you is that you can solve your problems in a calm and rational manner. I'm about to talk to you about something that happened, and very quickly felt myself walking toward that cliff where I just wanted to explode, and realized that that wasn't going to fix anything, and reined myself back in, took a different approach to it, and have found a solution. So what am I rambling on about? You might remember from this video where I told you that I was looking for wild edibles, that I told you that it was this area where I found some wild potato vine and some passion flower. And I was very excited about it, and I told you all about what I was going to do. Well, about a week or so after that video, my wife calls me while I'm at my day job, and she says, the power company's here, they're spraying. And she ran out here to try to stop them. By the time she got out here, they had already moved on. And went and talked to somebody, found somebody down the road, and they confirmed, yes, they had just sprayed and whatever. So I happen to know somebody that works for the power company, and I called him up and said, you know, what can I do? I know there's nothing I can do as far as what just took place, but what can I do to see if there's something a little more agreeable that I can do in the future? And he gave me the name of a department head that worked over the right-of-way department. So what I want you first to understand as a homesteader is that if you've signed something like a right-of-way, just what you might be getting yourself into. You can see from what's above me that this is the right-of-way for the power company. Now I called and I spoke to the man over this department, and I said, look, okay, I understand I signed a right-of-way, that's a legal document, I've got no recourse for what's taking place, I'm not trying to cause you a fight. That's exactly what I told him. I'm not trying to start a fight. I'm trying to find a way to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. And we talked a bit about it, and I told him, you know, I was disappointed about some things, that, you know, my beehives sit 30 feet away from where they stopped spraying. I told him that, yes, some of this area is overgrown, but it's about 20 feet vertical to get to the power line because I'm in a ravine. There's a power pole at the top of one end of the ravine and a power pole at the top over here. And between that, down here in the gully, it's about 20 feet from the top of even this little shrub to where the power lines are. And I said, I think that's a bit excessive to come out here and spray when there's nothing close to the line. And he explained to me they only spray about every 3 years, and so when they see something, they spray it because by the time they get back, it may have already overgrown. And I told him I understood that, but what really, you know, for lack of a better word, hurt my feelings was the lack of communication. I said, basically what you're telling me is that I signed a right-of-way 5 years ago when I purchased this land, and I'm supposed to just out of nowhere be ready for you to come spray without any further notice just because I signed a right-of-way. I said, you know, the guy who came to spray has seemed to take no consideration to what the property owner might have in place. And I told him about the wild edibles I was trying to cultivate, told him about my honeybees, at which I found out he was using commercial grade Roundup. At which I also had to backpedal just a little bit and not get into how terrible of a thing that was, because right down, the reason for this ravine is there's water right down there flowing all the way through my property and another property before depositing into a lake. So I decided not to jump onto that with him. So what we ended up agreeing on, you see that power pole at the end of the driveway there? I spoke to him about how the state apiarist has a program for crop dusters and flags that you can put up, and if a crop duster sees this particular flag waving, then they know that there's an active colony over there, and they can adjust their plans accordingly. And I said, what if there might be some kind of program like that that we could put into place with power companies? And I said, maybe if I were to put a sign up that let your people know that this area was being maintained for one reason or another, that they would leave it alone. And I even offered to him, what if, I know I need to sign the right-of-way for you to have legal access to get on my property to maintain a line if there were damage to the line, and that you're trying to do preventative maintenance with the spraying. But what if I signed another document that as the property owner, I take obligation to keeping the land clean, and that if it's not maintained, that you provide me some sort of notification that you're going to take care of what I'm not. And he thought that those were good ideas, but there were some logistical issues on how to put them into place and so forth. But the moral of the story is this: whether or not he comes up with a plan that can be distributed throughout the region or not, I am going to be putting a sign at the end of my driveway here that says something to the effect of "No spraying allowed, contact property owner." Something to those effect. And he said he'll make sure his guys know to respect any kind of signage that they see like that. And then if down the line they come up with a program where everybody can be on the same sign, then I will happily conform to that program. So here's my sad story. I've got my fruits and they are just dead. Everything is dying. This is about almost 2 weeks worth of the Roundup taking its course, and everything has just died off. And like this fruit fell from the vine all on its own. I just noticed that it had fallen. And part of me wants to crack it open and try to save the seed, and a part of me knows that it's got that glyphosate, or however you pronounce the chemical in Roundup, inside of it, which concerns me. And I just don't know if I want to do anything with it. I may just have to say it's a wash and hope I can find this stuff somewhere else on my property. I explained to the guy, my biggest concern was the lack of communication, that, the property owner, me, I'm working on something. This area is maintained, but I found wild edibles in about a 20-foot by 60-foot section, and that was the only part that had been allowed to grow up, and the tallest thing was maybe 6 foot tall. And he apologized for what it was, but again, like I said, damage done is damage done. And I said if somebody had just drove up and took a little extra notice and seen bags hanging off of vines, or over here some bulbs that my wife planted for flowers that have been completely killed off, and seen the cages that were around those to make sure that rabbits didn't eat them, or if they had seen beehives 30 feet away from where they stopped spraying. If somebody had just went, wait a second here, I know we're busy, I know we have a job to do, I know it's hotter than heck out here in Mississippi, but something's happening, let's go ask the property owner what's going on. We could have avoided this. I could have came out here with my brush cutter and cleared out all but what I needed specifically to try to save these. I could have gone and taken care of everything on the other side. And then all of this right here, it's not going to go anywhere. That's marsh, and I'm going to be working in there to do some earthworks later anyway. So, I mean, it all could have been maintained if there was just communication. So folks, I know that a lot of you are probably like-minded with me, and you'd just assume, pay the local guys and the federal guys what taxes they have to have and be done with it. And you certainly don't want your power company bringing chemicals onto your property. And yet here it is. So just talk. If you've got a right-of-way, if you've got grid power coming onto your property, if you've got anything coming onto your property that's not maintained by you, that somebody else has legal right to come onto your property, work it out. You go talk to them today, tomorrow, as soon as you can, about what their maintenance programs are, what other options you may have, if you can put up signage, if you can sign a legal agreement, or whatever you can do to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. For what it's worth, the Roundup did not hurt the bees. It hurt all of this vegetation, and there wasn't very much over here in terms of actual blossoms. The flowers I mentioned for my wife's had already bloomed and gone away in the heat. They're spring flowers. And other than the passion flower and the wild potato vine, there was nothing else blooming over here. There wasn't a large nectar flow, so the bees weren't even over here. So even if there could have been damage, thankfully they were off in the garden where there's squash and all those kind of things like crazy for them to go on. So so at least I'm happy to report that nothing happened to the bees, but now I've got all this. So take it for what it's worth, and I'll put a couple more shots in here as I kind of close out, and you guys can probably see what I'm seeing. There's not much call for this area to have been sprayed. A lot of it is at like ankle or calf height, and it's the entire property and wood line up near the road frontage as well. It's just I felt like it was excessive, but it's done, and so now we just have to make sure it's never done again. Thank you all for watching. I hope you can have some success in making sure this never happens. See you next time.